Week 10 of the 2024-25 NBA season is over, which means it's time to run it back. This is Run It Back, NBA Week in Review. I'm Jose Salviati, editor at thepeachbasket.net, and this is the show where we recap the week that was in the NBA and then highlight the marquee matchup for the week to come. We start like we always do with the only objective overall top 10 NBA power rankings anywhere. You can read more about how we get to these rankings and see the entire list at thepeachbasket.net. Let's take a look at the top 10 at the conclusion of week number 10. Dropping out of the top 10 this week are the Golden State Warriors. Their 1-3 week in week 10 cost them. They dropped 4 spots to week number 13. They dropped 4 spots to number 13 this week. Let's see which team is back in the NBA Elite Top 10 list this week. Number 10 belongs to the Denver Nuggets. They were 3-2 in week 10 and moved up 1 spot from number 11 last week. The Dallas Mavericks dropped 3 spots after a 2-2 week in week number 10 to claim the number 9 spot. Dropping 1 spot to number 8 are the Orlando Magic. Now they're hurting a bit, but playing great defense, which was enough to keep them in the top 10. The Los Angeles Clippers continue to keep their heads above water as they await the return of Kawhi Leonard. They were perfect in week number 10 at 2-0, and that was enough to move them up 3 spots to number 7 this week. The New York Knicks did the Clippers 2 better, going 4-0 in week number 10. That impressive week saw them jump up 2 spots to number 6. The top 5 teams in the NBA, that's surprising, have not changed now for 3 weeks in a row. These 5 teams seem to be the best the NBA has to offer right now. And, no argument from me. These are the elite of the elite. Coming in at number 5 are the Memphis Grizzlies. They enjoyed a 2-1 week in week number 10 to hold on to the number 5 spot. The Houston Rockets, they're for real, were 3-1 in week number 10. That kept them at number 4 for the 5th week in a row. The Boston Celtics had a losing week in week number 10, which was a bit surprising, but it didn't really cost them. They were 1-2, but that was enough to keep them at number 3 for the 3rd week in a row. Now, the best team in the West, undeniably, are the Oklahoma City Thunder. They were a perfect 3-0 in week number 10 and held on to the number 2 spot for the 3rd week in a row. The best team in the East is the best team in the association, bar none. The Cleveland Cavaliers were once again perfect in week 10, going 2-0. They hold on to the number 1 spot for this is incredible, for the 7th week in a row and 8th time in 10 weeks. That's it. That's the objective top 10 list for week number 10. If you want to see where all 30 teams land this week, please visit thepeachbasket.net. Now let's shift our focus to the players. These are the best to do it by average in week number 10 of the 2024-25 NBA season. These are the best by average in shooting, rebounds, assists, blocks, steals, points, and game score. The best scorer in week number 10 plays his basketball in Oklahoma City. Shea Gildas Alexander averaged 36 points per game over his 3 games played to lead everyone in the association. He's on a tear, and his team is playing incredibly fun basketball. Several players averaged 5 3-point field goals made in week number 10, including Donovan Mitchell and Jordan Poole. Those 2 played 2 games this week, so we're going to shout out the 2 that averaged 5 3-point shots made over 3 games played. Those players, incredibly, are both bigs. Victor Wembanyama, the biggest of the bigs, and Lauri Markkanen. The top shot maker was Jaylen Brown. He averaged 13.7 field goals made over his 3 games played. Now, things are not great in Sacramento, unfortunately, but Domantas Sabonis continues to dominate the boards there. His 16.5 rebounds per average over his 2 games played in week number 10 led everyone. Rookie Zach Edey led the association in offensive rebounds, averaging 6.3 over his 3 games played in week number 10, while Josh Giddey, interestingly, led everyone in defensive rebounds, pulling down 13 in his 1 game played. Makes sense. We have some bigs averaging the most 3-point shots made, so sure, why not a guard averaging the most defensive rebounds? A crazy week. Milwaukee Buck Damian Lillard played one game in week number 10 and handed out 12 assists to lead everyone. Victor is back. Wembanyama averaged 7 blocks last week to lead everyone. He only averaged 6 blocks this week, so it was a down week for the big guy. He played 3 games in week number 10 and just continues to be otherworldly for the San Antonio Spurs. The Great Barrier Thief was once again the top thief in the association. Dyson Daniels played 2 games in week number 10 and averaged 4.5 steals to lead everyone again. Finally, the top game score, which takes into account every statistical category in an NBA game, goes to Shea Gildas Alexander. His game score of 31.7 over 3 games played is pretty incredible, and it led everyone. Now, as we look ahead to week number 11, we have 2 interesting interconference games to watch. First up, on Friday, January 3rd, the Boston Celtics travel to Texas to take on the much improved and very real Houston Rockets. That same day, Friday, January 3rd, the Cleveland Cavaliers will also be in Texas to take on the Dallas Mavericks. Now, you're going to likely hear an announcer or two call out that both of these games could be potential finals matchups this season, and they very well could be. Both games should be interesting and fun games to watch. Now let's turn to Quicket AI to share its thoughts on the biggest news or issue in the NBA as we look ahead to week number 11. And as we look ahead, Quicket AI correctly calls out that we should keep an eye on the trade impact after the Lakers sent D'Angelo Russell to the Nets for Dorian Finney-Smith and Shake Milton. This is not necessarily a needle mover for the Lakers. I do think it's a good trade. They move on from an underperforming Russell and replace him with a player, Shake Milton, who is much more accustomed to a bench role than D'Lo ever was. They also add a reliable starter in Finney-Smith, who's averaging 10.4 points per game this season on 43.5% shooting from 3. The big question in Los Angeles is, are the Lakers done? Here in LA, a lot of fans don't think they are. And it'll be interesting to see what happens next. NBA trade season is the best time of the year. Another storyline again this week will be injuries, unfortunately. The Celtics, Grizzlies, and Bucks, as well as others, are all going to have to maneuver injury concerns and hope they have a deep enough staff to survive what could be some trouble with injuries weeks ahead. So hopefully things work out well. I hate to talk about injuries over and over again, but it's just been a standard theme in the NBA this season. But that's it. Week number 10 of the 2024-25 NBA season is in the books. Join us again next week after week number 11, when we once again run it back.